The human eye can distinguish anywhere from 100,000 to 10 million variations of color, yet it can only distinguish approximately 30 variations of value or tone. That's totally understandable since thousands of color variations fall within the same range of value. When working with paint pigments, it's difficult to mix more than 10 discernible values. To simplify the painting process when making value decisions, many artists confine themselves to thinking in either a 5-step value scale, a 7-step value scale, or a 10-step value scale. It's through the choice of value, not color, that we achieve the illusion of light being cast on objects, of reflections and shadows. When we choose the value well, it really doesn't matter what color we choose to express that value. We still achieve the illusion of light that we are trying to express. To be honest, I didn't completely believe the previous sentence until I conducted an experiment painting en plein air in Tyaskin, Maryland. I set up my easel early in the morning as the light streamed through a straight row of tall pine trees on a piece of property owned by a paper company. I planned on presenting a color value lesson in a workshop and wanted to have an example to show the class. I squeezed yellow, green, red, and blue oil paint from the tubes onto my palette. For the first time, I was actually concerned about being visible as I painted. More often than not, when I painted in this rural area of the eastern shore of Maryland, 1 or 2 pickup trucks would stop by throughout the day to see why a lady from New Jersey would be on a dirt road in the swamp. The curious driver would stop to ask what it was that brought me to the swamp, to paint in what he thinks is the most beautiful place in the world, but others often don't feel the same way. He'd chat for a bit, share his mother's recipe for muskrat stew, and then move on. An hour or 2 later, the pickup truck would appear again. The driver would check up on me and see how the painting was coming along. Though some of the young men had traveled the world in the military, they couldn't think of calling any other place home. I thought for sure that anyone who saw me painting this day might think I was on drugs. My plan, if anyone stopped, was to casually swap the painting with the painting I'd done the day before, one that had a more normal color palette. I painted the entire painting using only those 4 pigments straight out of the tube. Yellow as my light tone, red and green as my middle tones, blue as my dark tone. I used both red and green as middle tones to illustrate that they are generally the same value when they fall opposite on the color wheel. I used a maple leaf green and a fire engine red, not a yellow green and a red violet. A half hour had gone by without a passing vehicle. I'd just concluded my first fairly frightful oil sketch experiment. As is my habit, I walked about 30 feet back to view it from a distance. Before I could return to my easel, a pickup truck pulled in. The young man hung himself out the window, his mouth agape. "I've never seen a painting capture the light coming through the trees like that. I've never seen such a real-looking painting in my life. That's amazing." I thought he had to be joking, yet he seemed totally sincere. "You don't think the colors are a bit strange?" I asked. "Hell no. If you gotta use those crazy colors to get that sunlight shining through the trees, I guess that's what you gotta do. I really like it. You don't mind if I send a few of my buddies by to take a look, do you? You'll be painting here for a while?" I painted in that spot for another 3 hours, continuing to experiment with these basic colors. 3 more pickup trucks stopped by and let me know that their friends suggested they come by. They all liked the bizarre little paintings and came back once or twice more to see how things were going. I never can predict the people I'll meet or the words that will be spoken when I paint outside in a city, mountain, or remote rural area. When I returned home, I painted a few more example paintings in my studio so that my students wouldn't see that it didn't only work with landscapes. What's the point of telling this anecdote and showing you these examples? I want to bring your attention to the importance of making value-based decisions. Remember, it's through the choices of value, not color, that we achieve the illusion of light being cast on objects, of reflections and shadows. It's our choices of value that determine the shapes a viewer notices and those the viewer doesn't notice. Our paintings will be more masterful when we hone the skill of determining excellent value choices.